loud. Is this loud enough? Was that too loud?
You're a little loud.
Oops. This is Ari, the Data Queen, joined by Analyst Holt, Matt Muscardi, Hazelnut Rollis, and
Chantal. Intern.
Oh, sorry.
Did you call her Chanterelle?
Chanterelle, like the mushroom.
Oh, no, can't do it.
Delicious, delicious mushrooms.
On today's weekly wrap-up, we got Kamala, maybe some Musk, I think some Boeing.
Yeah, there is that.
But are we
Always
feeling
Boeing.
better this week than last week? Last week was pretty low, I think.
Well, let's just say this. I don't know what Chantal pulled this week. I'm guessing 45 stories about Kamala Harris. But I know it was not easy to find assholes.
Okay.
And you have 4 goodliest.
I do feel like mine may just be mediocre good.
My
4 good things that made me feel good.
For the first time, my prediction came true. I said last week that we were going to feel better this week, and we do. Everyone I know feels better this week, except for maybe Matt.
It had to happen sometime.
Had to happen.
There is there's something in the air.
There's happiness
I don't know if it's
going
that
around.
DEI or what. There's a little bit of DEI in the air.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Damien, get us started with
Ooh,
story
I won't
of the
without the
week.
music. There we go. I mean, look. First of all, I got to say this. It was one of the happier moments of my recent life. I was at they call it a camp. It was way up in Maine. It was just at least an hour from anyone else. No phones, no cell phone coverage, no Wi-Fi. And then Sunday, the owner of the place comes and tell us that Biden has announced he's stepping down. And first of all, yes, I was happy. I love Joe Biden, actually. I think he's the most consequential and important president of my lifetime. Honestly, I really honestly believe this, but I'm not going to go into that now. But what I was most happy about was that I got to hear news the old-fashioned way, and I didn't have to hear 17,000 annoying opinions about how I should think about the news. I got to sit there and just talk about it with people for a while and actually contemplate what I thought about it, and I loved it. I guess I also loved it because I'm also really excited by the woman who was running for president, and just excited in general. But I just love getting news that way. So that's my first story of the week anyway. It doesn't really...
Wait.
Yeah.
Is the story that you got told
I got to
by
go
a
away.
guy?
That after Ari and Matt go to every country on Earth, I finally went somewhere. Of course, I went to Maine, but whatever.
You went in Maine to a patch of grass.
Look, I had a canoe and a pond. What more do I really need? I mean, okay, but
I live on a pond with a canoe, so...
okay, there you go. But here's how I entered this story, and I know that Chantal in her Gen Z section is going to cover this in much more depth. But Harris is not only running for president, but she's joining TikTok.
Ooh.
Remember, Biden, the old man, tried to ban TikTok, which we know is never really going to happen. But I just thought it was interesting that she's kind of like, she's joining TikTok.
Trump wanted to ban TikTok too. Kamala's going to ban TikTok
he changed
also.
his mind.
Yeah, but she? Kamala, no. But when she is president, someone's going to hand her the intel that shows like how
you have more
much
to say about this?
TikTok is a national security problem.
Chantal, you have more to say about this, right? All right, let's just skip that. My story of the week. My first story of the week is, of course, Biden is stepping down, and we may have not only a woman, but
and not may we will
half Indian, half black. This is competing with Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum. I mean, right?
Finally, we can catch up to Mexico.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the first story of the week. Second story of the week, right in our wheelhouse, the secret battle for the future of the Murdoch empire.
Ew. I like
Who
that
here
headline.
has watched? Did anyone watch Succession here?
I have not.
I've watched the first
It's
season.
kind of sad. What a sad group of people. It's the only show about
That's why
corporate
I stopped
governance.
watching.
It's probably one of the best shows ever, and it's all about corporate governance, and I'm the only one who watched it. But what's amazing is how much it parallels that show. But what we're learning from the New York Times, essentially, is that Rupert Murdoch is moving secretly to change his trust, which when he dies, and I think he's what, 241 years old, I think? I don't know.
I think he and Trump are the same age, aren't they?
The trust, as it originally stands, is supposed to hand out equal shares to his 4 children, Prudence, Lachlan, James, and Elizabeth. So 25% shares, 25% voting power over the whole Fox empire. That includes News Corp, Fox Corp, right? I think it's two companies that we cover in our database. Yeah. But now he wants to give it all to Lachlan, who is who is the currently still the chair of News Corp, and is he still the chair and CEO of Fox, I believe?
I think so, yeah.
I should look at our data.
All the voting power or all
the trust
money?
Voting power?
Just everything, right? Just everything. He wants to give him majority control of the whole Fox
talk about
empire.
Favorites.
Lachlan, the New York Times is reporting that Lachlan was the only one who showed up to Rupert's latest marriage, which just happened. His 5th wife. And I guess why this is important is because Rupert is scared that the other 3 children are not, disgusting, horrible conservatives. And
that's true.
Only
that's
Lachlan
right.
is, and only Lachlan will further the horrible conservative empire. So, I don't know. This is a great corporate governance battle unfolding before our eyes. So this is right up our wheelhouse. So I had to pick this story.
I mean,
Matt size.
I just like the Murdoch Empire thing. I just can't care that much. I know it's like the most watched thing, and it's basically between that and social media is the single source of terrible information and
seems pretty significant.
But it was. Did we ever think that Rupert Murdoch was going to cede control to anyone but some horrible, conservative asshole that was his family?
Which is why him dying and other children in his family, one of them includes a climate change activist.
Yes. Well,
the real story is that this is another dual class company. This is another company where investors
another media company
don't get to say anything about what happens with the company that they own, right? That's the story here. These are uninvestable assets. So whatever the Murdochs do and the drama is just the drama. The real thing is it's an uninvestable asset.
Ooh, all right. What else?
I will say this, that currently Fox Corporation in our data, Lachlan Murdoch controls 75% of influence. So I don't even know.
Yikes.
We're making the assumption that if the trust stands as it is, that he'll only control 25% of the empire. So we're making the assumption that the siblings will vote against him, but we don't know that that's true. They might still vote for the family and still... That was part of the drama of succession, that even though they all hated their horrible conservative father, who was basically Rupert Murdoch, they still did things in the family way, voted with the family, because everyone just loved the power and money, and
they didn't family.
So even though they were liberal and
mafia.
were angry at the conservative messaging, they didn't care. It was power, it was money. So
It's
anyway,
a conservative Cosa Nostra.
Moving on.
What else you got?
The third, these are some big stories to me, at least. The third story is mind bending. I don't know. I read this earlier and I can't believe what I'm about to say. Listen to this. The Justice Department submitted an agreement with Boeing on Wednesday, in which the aerospace giant will plead guilty.
Yeah.
But listen to what they're pleading guilty to. Shut up, audience.
Guilty. No, just let the audience have its moment. Someone's
Pleading
guilty of something.
To a fraud charge. A fraud charge for misleading U.S. regulators who approved the 737 MAX jetliner before 2 of the planes crash, killing 346 people. This is crazy. I'm sorry. This is just my mind is just blown by this. Boeing pleading guilty to fraud.
Can they be convicted of murder now?
Why? But
Can
why
we just call them
they?
murderers?
Why couldn't they? So part of the deal, Boeing admitted that through its employees, it made an agreement by dishonest means to defraud the FAA. So the deal calls for and this is the important part for us, the appointment of an independent compliance monitor. Matt,
Ooh, what is that?
we were joking before the show that the current state of corporate governance, the current state of the U.S. board, which is supposed to provide independent oversight of company management, it basically needs its own board now.
Yes, that's correct.
It needs a board. It needs an independent board to oversee it, right? And that's what this deal is calling for. It's basically calling for an actual set of independent monitors to look over Boeing.
Well, the reason why we said that is so we created. I mean, this show is brought to you by FreeFlow Analytics. FreeFlowAnalytics.com. You can go sign up with an email account, look up every single director that's active in the world.
I use
today,
it every day, no joke.
And you can find out how they perform and how powerful they are. But our data set includes who they're connected to, what their knowledge is. We have estimates for everything. And we can effectively measure how good these people are. But we were talking about this because we are trying to sell this data and consulting around the data to the people that we basically would be disrupting, right? Like the people who vote and the people who are on boards. So we realized that if we wanted the data to get used the way it should, we need another board in between the investors and the board that could look at the data and say, oh, well, this is what you should be doing because you are all compromised, right? Like we wouldn't have the Kimball Musk gets reelected problem if you had an independent board in between voting on whether Kimball Musk should be elected because they actually were using data. It is a little bit bananas, but I am dubious that Boeing's going to get an actual, who's the independent compliance monitor?
That's a great question. But to me, this serves as one of the greatest, the greatest signs, the greatest statements that what we do is important because we have been screaming about Boeing forever, and the government essentially is telling them, is ordering them to have an independent monitor, basically what we've been saying, right?
Yeah,
that's a chaperone.
There are real consequences to this.
Yeah.
I mean, what we hope for all the corporations that we yell about, we don't want the consequences to be actual death of 346 people. But again, this is a great, a great example, maybe the best example ever of why this stuff is important.
It does seem to take death in order for anyone
People
to pay attention now.
Well, that's crazy because this didn't happen directly following that, right?
Oh, this is 10 years. Yeah, 7 years later.
Is this because of the recent investigation because of the door plug, or is it no, because the investigation from 2018 and 2019 when the planes fell out of the sky, that was done.
But there was the investigation of how the planes fell out of the sky, and then there was the ongoing investigation about what they told regulators in advance of these things happening. And effectively what they've done is lie to regulators for years. For years, they've lied to regulators.
Culture.
And when you look at it, $244 million is how much they paid, right?
That's the fine. 3 years of probation and $243 million fine.
I didn't look up these numbers, but in 6 years, at an average, total a summary compensation of $20 million a year for Dave Calhoun, you're talking about he made $120. He can almost pay this fine with his salary over those 6 years, but he's not going to. The shareholders are paying this fine. The shareholders, the people who own the company, pay the fine. The people who run the company keep their jobs and the money. How is that a thing?
Let's not forget that Calhoun is still CEO. Still, despite promising all of us that he'd leave, he's still there. He's still waiting.
Correct.
That's the third big story. And finally, the fourth story. I just had to cover this one because it made me laugh. Last week, I covered CrowdStrike, how their CEO was deeply sorry about everything.
Yeah, he was very sorry.
Deeply sorry.
Because basically, he was doing his best to kind of help shut down the internet, right? It affected air travel, banks, 911, so many important things.
Yeah, it was great.
It was a very big meltdown last Friday. They called it one of the biggest corporate snow days ever because a lot of workers couldn't go to work. They couldn't do their jobs. So CrowdStrike, this is just silly. I don't even know how this is real. CrowdStrike is facing new backlash after giving staff and firms they work with a $10 Uber Eats voucher to say sorry for its global IT outage, right? And this is an actual quote from CrowdStrike to these people. To express our gratitude, your next cup of coffee or late night snack is on us.
Oh,
Now-
yeah,
Well,
finally.
this
Here's
is a double win for the workers, right?
Yeah, 'cause
No
it's-
day and
true.
cup of coffee.
Yeah, they get
that's
to
right.
stay, and they get to stay later. A late night snack. I don't like that part. I don't like the inference there. They're there at 1 a.m. What correcting
not
all
Well,
the
they have
Snow
to
day?
be.
yeah correcting
Yeah,
all
they-
the issues made by the snow day. So
They did. CrowdStrike did have to admit that this was their error too. They said that this was a bug in their patch.
Right.
So
No,
because there was
there's
a
no
moment
cyber
when
attack.
everyone was blaming Microsoft, right? Like, in fact, Elon Musk went on his stupid social media site to laugh at Microsoft, and it turns out that this was just CrowdStrike.
And here's the kicker to this story. This is the best part of the story. You think it's already good. Here's the even better part. Several recipients encountered an error message when trying to make use of their voucher, which said that it had been canceled by the issuing party and were no longer valid.
Yeah,
a,
that's
c-
right.
a CrowdStrike spokesperson.
That's right. That's amazing.
Who is this spokesperson? A CrowdStrike spokesperson said Uber had blocked the cards after high usage rates triggered a fraud alert.
Right.
So they
yeah.
couldn't even get the voucher right. Couldn't even get it right.
People got their vouchers and immediately ordered something on Uber Eats.
Yeah, that was fast because
Sad.
they were actually worried that the vouchers
Yeah.
might fail.
I think you can
and
get
then
it.
they did.
I think you can get half a latte at Starbucks for $10,
Oh my
right?
god!
Or
Somebody
maybe a
had
third,
this
maybe a
idea.
third.
I'm sure somebody had to like fight hard to get the money for this.
Yeah, well,
Crazy.
it is a dual class company, and the founder owns 20% of the company and of the voting power, and the other 10% is owned by the private equity venture capital firm that basically funded
George
the company.
Kurtz is the current CEO and founder. Yeah.
So you are talking about a company that the employees would have had to go to Kurtz and be like, we got to do something. You got to
Yeah.
send something. And they were like, what about a gift basket? And he's like, no, too difficult. They're
So
like,
1994.
how about
yeah.
$10 at Uber Eats? $10 at Uber Eats gets you the fee to get the Uber Eats.
I was
to
gonna
your
say,
house.
does that include the service charge, the tip, all
No,
that
of
stuff?
course not. That is the service charge is like $7.99. You basically can get something for $2.
Wow, what a
It's
disaster.
amazing.
Congratulations, CrowdStrike, for just staying,
All right, so you're-
staying relevant in our show.
Your options this week are it's just Kamala Harris,
Of course,
and
yeah.
then the Murdoch Empire drama, Boeing pleading guilty to fraud, and CrowdStrike's $10 apology.
I'll go first.
That didn't work.
Failed $10 apology.
I think Boeing pleading guilty. to
Wow,
fraud.
over
Really?
over
So
Kamala.
out there in our world.
Wow,
Really?
Yeah.
this is a tough one.
No, it's not. It's Kamala Harris.
It is. It is. I agree, but it should be Boeing pleading guilty to fraud.
That is
fraud.
crazy.
The CEO
That's
of the United
crazy.
States of America just announced they're stepping down in 2025,
I know.
despite
Okay, fine,
the
that's
fact
also
that they could
crazy.
stay there,
Yeah.
and they are offering up
Touche.
basically
Wait, yeah.
a DEI candidate, which is what the conservatives have already been talking about. That this is a DEI candidate. That this is the
which
it's
now we
the
know
most
is code.
amazing
Which now we
CEO
know is
transition
code
of
for
all
black.
time.
Now we know is code for black or woman because her
Or unqualified.
she's
their minds.
oh she's crazy qualified. I mean
I know.
I
It's
mean
crazy.
I couldn't think of another person right now who would want to run this country other than Elizabeth Warren. But I'm a liberal from New England. So
Oh my God, you socialist.
Chantal, what's your vote on this one?
I mean, obviously, I'm covering Harris, so I would agree with that. But
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the purpose of
Uh-oh.
what we've
Wrong.
talked about, I would say Boeing with Ari.
Oh
Oh,
no!
no.
Wait, I'm
Oh.
vetoing. I'm vetoing. Can I veto
Yeah,
their votes?
that's right.
That doesn't exist.
You can.
You guys
veto.
are you're nuts. I mean, I appreciate
All
what
right.
you're saying, Chantal, and you're right in any other week. But come on, I mean, what are we doing here?
Moving on to good.
Wait,
list
you're
of the
moving
week.
me on?
Yeah,
Okay, fine.
you just got played off.
The winner is Kamala Harris. That's the story of the week.
Right. So let me open up Goodliest of the Week by saying that is obviously the Goodliest of the Week. However, I pulled
These
four
are
other stories.
So
that
this
you're
is
gonna
sub
vote on.
goodliest?
Yep.
Okay, sub goodliest of the week.
And we're going to start with this one that I hope you guys care about just as much as I do.
I'm just mad at you for voting for
Stanley
Boeing.
Black & Decker, which is based here in Connecticut, actually, to sell leaf blower silencer designed by four
Oh.
engineers.
Yes.
Yeah, we covered this.
Best news ever.
This is the best news for people in the suburbs.
Yeah.
4 engineering students at Johns
Oh, we did
Hopkins,
cover
they
this.
created this module for leaf blowers that reduce noise pollution by 37%.
That's it? 37% is not enough.
That is over a third, and that is a
No.
lot.
We need more than that.
They completely removed the high-pitched sound that annoyed them the most. They started with the leaf blowers on their campus that they hate.
Yeah, that's why they did it, because it
That's
was
why they did
waking
it.
them up at like 8 in the morning.
Hey,
Yep.
Stanley, how about you just convert completely to battery-powered leaf blowers, and then this problem's solved. Those, though, they make no noise.
They're still loud. No, the amazing...
Are they really? Are they that loud?
Yeah, they're not as loud, but they're still loud. The amazing part about this is that it's literally like a little cone.
Uh-huh.
Like it's nothing. Like they invented like a piece of plastic that's like
So cool.
3 inches long. Like it's not that, and it's worked so well that Stanley Black & Decker bought them out.
It's getting patented, and they're going to start selling it to the market by 2025.
Oh, you're
right.
right,
I
Matt.
like this, but this is an old story.
Yeah, you're right, Matt. Though I'm surprised by this. So gas-powered leaf blowers, about 80 to 90 decibels. Electric model is about 65 to
You've got to
70.
wear ear protection.
So it's still bad. Yeah,
And now my ears are shot.
How about this?
Years at playing CBGBs.
I
my
have a
ears are
novel
shot.
idea. If this company ever were to fail, which won't ever happen,
Yeah,
what about
correct. It will
let's
not
invent a company and let's invent a tool called like a rake, like a but almost like a giant fork, right? With a think of a fork,
Wow.
multiply the size of that fork by like 100 in your head, and then use that to like
Revolutionary.
scoop up the leaves.
No.
Actually, I can invent a verb too. How about you could rake the leaves with the rake, right? How about that? Actual
Same word.
exercise.
I'm going to invent something on top
The
of your
outdoors.
invention. It's called a rake silencer. It's really-
How about a
right,
Damien
moving on.
silencer? Yeah.
Chase, this is Chase Bank, to bar customers from using credit cards to pay to you. Let me restart.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chase to bar customers from using credit cards for pay later loans.
Why is
This
that
is
good?
the nation's largest credit card issuer, and they will no longer allow. I guess that's what was happening. Their customers were using
it's really
their credit
unbelievable.
cards to pay payments on a different credit line.
Sounds like an Escher drawing. I don't really understand.
Sounds like,
what
a,
it,
sounds
really
like a
is.
personal Ponzi scheme.
It is. It is.
Anyway,
you Ponzi'd yourself.
They have said no more as of October.
well, look
Not now.
again.
Don't get crazy.
Again, buy the rake and save yourself some money, right? I mean, what are we doing here, people?
Next, U.S. solar production soars by 24% in just 1 year.
Yeah.
I like this one.
I like this
And
one a lot.
may I add,
Does that mean it was
That's great.
hotter out?
25% in the first 5 months of the year.
Okay.
No, it means that construction of solar plants have boomed in the U.S. And they all came online at the end of last year. So the Energy of Information Agency, the EIA, they're predicting that solar production could rise by as much as 42% by the end of 2024.
Finally, we can power all
Finally.
the needs of the
We made it
Silicon
cheap.
Valley bros.
We have a
all
ton
the
of money.
AI.
We're throwing money. They're building plants. We're
Roughly
doing
how
the
long does
thing.
it take to
Farms.
build a solar plant? Oh, like a solar
farm?
Yeah.
I mean, they did this.
Like 2 years?
No, way faster.
You can do that faster?
Yeah.
I'm
They were
just
doing
wondering
this in
because
like 6 months.
I'm trying to figure out like Biden starts as president,
Yeah.
passes the infrastructure bill. There's money to do solar,
Yep.
and then lo and behold,
They're doing solar.
there's solar,
Yep.
and
What concept?
and the production rises by
Yeah.
42% by
Yep.
the end of 2024.
And they're saying solar and wind deployments of these new projects, because of this money, they're expected to dwarf any other energy project through this year and next year.
Unless
I mean,
Vance
it's
and
almost
Trump
like
get
magic.
elected.
Don't say those
this
words,
is the
Chantal.
crazy part, though, because the biggest beneficiaries of the renewables
Don't
are
say Texas.
It is Texas, Florida, and heavily conservative states who are legislating
that's what's nuts
discrimination
about it.
against
Absolutely
fossil
nuts.
fuels. They're making all the money from these solar plants.
Yeah, they
right?
created,
That's where all
they
the
created
sun
a
is.
culture war over this very sort of simple subject, and yet
They
they're
should just
benefiting
own
from
it.
the
They should
No.
take back the renewable energy and somehow make it conservative.
That would be fine.
They should just,
I'd be okay
Make
with
the
that.
sun
Take
American
it.
again.
What they
yeah.
Yes, I like
Yeah.
this. I like this.
Yeah. Fuck you, France.
Can we put
It's our sun.
Can we drape a giant flag over the sun that won't burn? Is that possible? What they got to work
Yeah,
on that at
it's-
University of Texas.
We can
Mostly,
make
I
a
think
giant
we
funnel
need
and
to.
take all the solar rays.
Yeah. See, again, another use for a funnel, right? To quiet a leaf blower and to
a
calm
solar
the sun.
silencer. Yeah.
All right. And I got one more that I just snuck in there.
All right.
Microsoft's World of Warcraft workers vote to unionize.
Okay.
Ooh.
This adds more than 500 workers to the total unionized Microsoft employees. Well,
Okay.
it's owned by Microsoft, but this is a big deal because when Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard for $69 billion, they promised regulators that they would remain neutral on organizing efforts.
They promised.
They promised.
Yeah. they
Okay.
did.
Nothing in writing. No. Yeah.
That was the deal.
No, they spit into their hands and then
well,
shook them.
that's
So
something.
that's,
blah blah.
So they voted, 500 workers voted to unionize. We'll see how this plays out, but this would bring the total to more than 1,700 workers, according to the Communications Workers of America.
Okay.
And
you know who loves this story? Bobby Kotick.
that
That guy loves this story because he sold, and he's a billionaire thanks to Microsoft, and he does not have to deal with the unions at all.
I mean, this is a huge deal. These are white collar workers unionizing, right? In video games, they make a
You
lot
love
of
white
money.
collars.
And what do you mean?
Yeah, I think he's talking about Miles's sartorial choices.
I will say that, and I like this story, Ari, but that you
What's the
might,
but?
You might have missed.
There's a but here.
This is news, I think, from this morning or yesterday, but the SAG-AFTRA part of the Screen Actors Guild is are video game performers, right? The actors who voice video games, representing 100. The union represents 160,000 of these performers, I believe. They
You need
are
that
also
many performers for
honestly,
video
what
games?
am I doing with my life?
They
Are
are
you
they
kidding me?
voted to go on strike beginning today because they are angry about the future of generative AI. So this is just breaking out of SAG-AFTRA. So there's a
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't understand what that has to do with my story. Or
well, what do you mean? It's more people in the video
correct.
game world going on strike. How dare you?
Okay.
You're just mad that the number's bigger. You're just mad that.
Trying to one up me over
Why don't we
here.
just include all those stories and say that gamer nerdy types are going on strike?
How about we don't vote for that one anyway because it's the
Okay.
weakest of the
All right.
group. Because
the performance people are upset that their jobs can be done by AI. That is just bananas.
So you're
Um,
not supporting that strike.
I am not supporting them.
wow,
Well,
Like,
Ari, we're going to
their
replace you
jobs
soon.
should be done by AI.
you all are pointless. That's what
Anyone
Ari,
wanna vote
the
on
data
this?
queen says. Yeah,
And
I'm
there's
voting.
so many of them too. Are you kidding me?
Let's
And I'm-
Chantal take over. This is going off rails.
So,
Yeah,
as a
because of
suburbanite,
you two.
or am I starting the vote?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go
start
ahead.
the
Go
vote.
ahead.
As a suburbanite, I have to go with the leaf blower story.
Heck
Well,
yeah.
I'm really torn between leaf blower and solar
This
production.
is a huge problem in your street.
Yeah, I
Don't-
mean,
You
Don't
guys should
out Matt.
mandate that everyone in your street needs to be using
but
this.
I don't care about it.
It's so loud.
Doesn't bother you?
I told you.
Very
I,
unpleasant street.
I
Matt
was
lives
on stage at CBGB's and the Continental and the
Oh, so
Lion's
you're already
Den,
deaf.
and
You're
I'm
already deaf.
deaf. I'm like,
I was
can't
telling
hear
my
anything
kids
anyway.
You know, it's funny. Just yesterday, I had to tell my kids like I grew up. I'm a Gen Xer, just like Matt's describing. I'm deaf. Like the music was
It's
so
done.
unbelievably loud for 20 years of my
Yeah.
life. I
I'm
don't know
not
what's going on.
We would go to concerts and we'd be in the front moshing and
nothing
the
in our ears.
speakers are nothing in your ears. You barely had anything on your feet. Like it was so loud.
I
And then
bring
you would
earplugs to concerts.
And then you would leave and put your headphones up to like volume 15 because you can't, because at 10
On
it
your
was too
Walkman.
muted. Yeah.
On the Walkman. And what I like about that story is not the sound part of it. It is that 4 students made a cone that they could sell to
Are
Black
you agreeing
and
with
Decker, 'cause
Chantal? Is that your vote too?
No, I am
No.
voting for U.S. solar production. I'm voting for the one that matters. Like the other ones only kind of matter.
Ears matter.
I appreciate.
No, the other ones moderately matter. Solar production is big.
I certainly appreciate what Chantal is saying. Although, I mean, I don't want Chantal to out her family, but I wonder, like, do they use rakes? I mean, they could. I know it's joking
I'll have
about
you
rakes,
know,
but
we use an
Yeah.
old-fashioned lawnmower that has to be pushed. Has to be run
gas.
with.
Oh,
a
a
loud,
gas-powered?
No.
pushy motor.
No.
Oh, you use the
mower that
actual
you have
r-
to run with. That cuts
Oh,
the
like
blades of grass.
yeah. Oh, wow. All
Chantal,
right.
that's beautiful.
where the audience likes that too. The little
That-
blades.
because we don't
Yeah.
need any of this nonsense if we just. I don't know. We don't even need the obesity drugs if we just all like pushed the lawnmower and raked our own leaves. But that's a whole nother diatribe. I'm gonna. Sorry. I love creating ties, but I gotta agree with Matt. Any renewable energy source at all, any uptick, and you're right. You're smart to point out too that this is something that Biden accomplished, and that he's handing off to a woman. Hopefully that isn't she even more to the left of Joe on climate causes? She's actually might even do more.
Climate.
On
She
climate.
may be more left, but on most other things, she's actually very much a centrist. I
But
like her.
but this is hopefully a good sign of things to come. So there you go. I'm going to vote for that one too.
That's the winner,
I'm excited.
obviously, which brings us to.
Gen Z-est of the week.
Oh, see, I was doing like Gen Z-est.
That's
Gen
title.
Z.
You're right. It's
Z-est.
Gen Z-est.
No.
That's right.
Gen Z-eist.
Yeah.
No?
You have
Well,
to have
that's
the
what
double
I
E.
said. It doesn't need the double
I
E.
guess
It
because
needs the
you have
double
a
E.
dash.
Gen Z-eist.
I'm copying Ari's good list.
Okay.
Oh.
I like it.
Okay,
All right,
so
what do we got?
Starting up with a short one and a little bit of throw a bone to the Elon Musk lovers and haters of
No.
the world.
Oh, no.
There are no lovers.
So just the haters. Elon
There's
Musk
just Stockholm Syndrome and haters.
and those who escape the Stockholm Syndrome and cut all legal and relational ties with their father. Elon Musk's transgender daughter says he was an absent and cruel father. And I'm glad that they're speaking out
Shocking.
about it.
Cruel.
Yeah, a fellow...
Cruel. No one's going to have a hard time believing that.
Nope.
Yeah, but I thought it was cool. Jenna Wilson, a 20-year-old Gen Zer, fellow Gen Zer, talked about Musk and kind of put to rest some of his fake news that he's put out there about not knowing about the medical forms. It relates to the California legislation we saw last week. Musk has claimed to not know anything about Wilson's, medical needs when going transgender, and Wilson has then spoken out and, put it all to rest.
Yeah. This story is stupid and sad.
Yeah.
It's sad for sure. Yeah.
Watch
There's like, it is amazing how much, I mean, I thought somebody would grab an Elon Musk story this week. It is amazing how much,
How many
did. Stories he
There was
generates.
a lot of stories this week. And
I almost
just
don't even
skipped them.
understand it anymore. Like I don't even know why because I don't know if you mentioned this, Chantal. I'm sorry, but the reason he was using to move, is it SpaceX or is it Twitter X?
I think it's SpaceX to Texas because of the California legislation.
Right. What a bananas thought to shareholders that's the reason. I mean, that alone should disqualify you from being CEO, right? Like, that's the
Of
reason
5 companies.
you're moving a corporate entity to another state because of your one just bizarre political view on one social issue. Like, and this is the guy who has preached to all of us that CEOs should not be involved with social and political issues. Like, this is not an acceptable. He is, and this is not an acceptable reason to move a corporate entity. I just said yet another reason why any
Are his
shareholder
days
supporting this guy
counted?
is crazy. It's just crazy to me.
it's all shareholders. He won 77% or 74% of the pay vote. They won by a landslide,
vote, right?
getting Tesla to Texas. They re-elected Kimball Musk and James Murdoch. No one cares. Like no one. So him moving to Texas, what do they care? No one cares. Just make me money. That's all it is.
Except who does care are the other Tesla customers, right? The sales
and
are
the
plummeting.
Employees.
Yeah, the sales, at least in California, especially, the sales are plummeting for Tesla cars.
Ari and I covered earlier this week that Musk said in the last earnings call, I think it was the earnings call, he said their expectation is to use humanoid robots to build the Teslas by 2025. And my cheeky guess is they don't mind swastikas drawn on the bathroom wall. So that's how you. That's what we're talking about.
Robot, yeah, that minded that.
Woke robots don't exist yet. So
okay,
killed by the woke mind virus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The second headline goes outside of the U.S. though. Daily Mail says that Labor says Tory law against cancel culture is at work, and universities could be taxed because woke culture is a burden. So
it could be taxed?
They're taxing woke culture?
Wait, explain this story.
Axed.
I thought
that was a mistypo, but yes.
Yeah.
Axed.
Yeah, and I'll let you finish, but what we are seeing a lot of this, right? We're seeing that a lot of the anti-woke legislation, we just saw this, I think, in Texas. No, was it maybe Oklahoma or Texas?
Oklahoma.
That the laws that they're creating are so annoying and dumb and burdensome and costly that they're not even worth it in the first place. I think that's kind of what you're saying here, Chantal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. My question just with this headline was, how would this be enforced?
Well, that's been the problem with all of these things. Like all of the anti-ESG, anti-woke, anti-DEI stuff is basically trying to say if you can't discriminate on you're discriminating on race by having like a committee to help black people, but that means you're discriminating against political ideologies. So we're going to protect those. But then in reality, it's like, yeah, enforcing that's not really a thing. Like you can't, first of all, it's not a marginalized community. Second of all, it's not, you can't enforce that.
That they're missing, of course. Yeah.
So yeah, none of these are really enforceable. And Oklahoma, the federal judge, I think, just basically gave a permanent stay to the anti-ESG legislation in Oklahoma.
I don't remember the language, but there was a federal group, that said that basically it was a threat to national security. These anti-ESG laws were a threat to national security, essentially.
No,
right?
I'm coming to that in the assholes.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to the story I stole from Damien. I'm talking about how Harris campaign joins TikTok after Biden signed ban. Fox headline.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why she didn't join as VP.
She wasn't campaigning for anything.
You gotta campaign as VP. You gotta help gotta help get reelected.
She saw the future. So already presidential foresight there. But obviously interesting with the comparison. Fox mentions later that Trump, as president, did issue the executive order to ban TikTok. That was then challenged in court. And also covered how he has since reversed his position, saying that there are a lot of people on TikTok that love it, and that if the app were banned, Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, his mortal enemy, would benefit. And according to him, an enemy of the people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
Wait. Explain to me. I don't want to go too deep here on TikTok. I know, but I'm about to. What is the brat summer, Chantal?
Well, that is what the Washington Post has been asking all week. Basically, there are all these edits on TikTok and on every
Chantal just called me old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like, you have to be chronically online to understand it a little bit. But I guess it's gone really viral, so it's hitting a wide audience. But Brat Summer, Charlie XCX, pop icon right now, really popular album debuting among Gen Z. It's called Brat. She's actually the one who did the music for Barbie, the Barbie movie.
Okay.
And they're making a lot of edits about Kamala Harris in her famous line, "You think you just fell out of a coconut tree. You exist in the context of all that came before you."
Beautiful.
Because it's just a little silly, and it gains a wide viewership because it's just so chaotic and crazy. And Charlie XCX has officially endorsed Kamala Harris and her campaign.
Yeah.
So all the Charlie XCX fans.
Wait, somebody explain who that is.
The pop icon.
Yeah, that's. I'm just kidding. I still don't. I don't care about these people.
Well, you should care because finally we found a good use for TikTok, which is to help elect the first female president of the United States. That's a good.
When
There
is
is
Taylor
no good-
Swift gonna endorse Kamala Harris?
Yeah, tell us, Chantal. When?
Power.
When will Taylor Swift endorse?
No,
Chantal?
when will Travis Kelce? That's the real question.
And Chantal, have you been to a Taylor Swift show?
I have when I was in 7th grade.
Oh, so you're an old
wow.
school. Okay, so you're
You're
I
an
like
old
her
out of
old
the game
style.
now.
OG.
Yeah.
You're like an
Okay.
ancient Swiftie. Oh, you like her old stuff.
But can you
you see
please-
how it happens? Do
Yeah.
you see how it happens? That's how everybody like. We're here saying like Taylor Swift is just the next version of somebody else when we were Alanis Morissette or whatever.
Madonna.
And even Chantal is like, yeah, I like Taylor Swift, but I like her old stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Her new
Back
stuff,
in the
shit.
day.
This is
Back
why my
in the
little
day,
brothers
she
are
was
kicking me
good.
out of Gen Z.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Chantal, I do want you to answer one thing though. Seriously, when will Taylor endorse Kamala? Do you know? Do you have that information?
October. Month
Okay.
before.
There
Yeah,
it is,
why-
October.
I think you're right. Why blow it now? Let's
I
get some
agree.
buzz going right before the election. I like it.
Yeah.
But she has to go with the
think
girl
she's-
power.
Yeah.
She's busy touring. All right, so your three Gen Z-est stories are...
Wait, is she done? You cutting her off? Are you done, Chantal?
Yeah, I mean,
I thought
got
that was
a
it.
little bit more to say about.
Yeah,
Oh,
let her
say
say
more.
it. Let her say it, man.
Well, basically,
you.
this is a huge story because 170 million users of TikTok are American, and more than
170 million.
170 million.
That's half the country. That's crazy. It's a crazy
Genuinely,
number.
and
Yeah.
more than a third use the app to keep up with politics, which is way
Great.
more than Facebook
That's
or
not
Instagram
scary.
or any other type of social media. So
not
TikTok is
scary at
the political influence app. You know,
Yeah.
Harris,
Wow.
Biden, Trump. Actually, I don't think that Biden has an account, but Harris and Trump both have an account because it's a political necessity right now.
Be funny if Biden had an account while he's
Biden
trying
does
to
have
ban
an
it.
account.
Yeah.
There was
Does he?
stories about there was stories about he joined, but like did one post where he ate a cookie or something.
It sounds like
Oh,
our
God.
sounds like
Which
our
is
account.
it literally is our social accounts.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, Trump's first post on it included a UFC title fighter.
Huh?
So
Really?
Yep. Genuinely,
yeah,
it has
Dana White.
it has over
him.
164 million views on the app. Whereas Kamala Harris, currently her first video has 10 million, but that was posted 16 hours ago. So I'd say that's a pretty good viewership.
Yeah. Something tells me this. I know we're joking about it, but this is an important part of this campaign. I mean, her relevance to young people. And all
Yeah,
this.
and
She's-
Gen Z content creators have been the focus of both the Democratic and Republican parties. They're inviting them to the White House. They're inviting them to news briefings of Russia's invasion on Ukraine. They're invited to the RNC convention. They're being paid to be influencers for the platform.
Oh,
Why is our audience
literally
buzzing us so much?
daggers to my heart.
I will say this though. I said this to somebody a few days ago that what Kamala does represent for young people is what they missed out on during the first Obama election, right? This goodwill, this feeling of joy and hope back in 2008. It can now kind of be recreated for them, having the first.
That hasn't existed since.
No, it hasn't. You're right, but
Right.
it was such an
Since
important
2016.
moment. It's an important moment of our lives that I'm sure young people probably some feel envious that they missed out on. And then this is their chance to get the first woman in the White House. So Matt,
Yeah, great. You don't need
you're
TikTok for
shrugging,
that.
but I wouldn't underestimate the power
It
this could
doesn't-
have.
that has nothing to do with TikTok. The latest poll showed that 18 to 34-year-olds favor Kamala Harris 60 to 40.
That's it.
Oh, that's
Come
too
on, we gotta get that
close.
higher. Come on.
That's actually a really big gap considering they favored Trump over Biden, right? So this is a big it's a
Swung
big
back
deal.
Is that
very
true?
quickly.
Really?
Yeah, they were. Trump was like slightly favored
By
in
young
most
people?
polls by young people.
I think it's
including
just
by
because
young
a
people.
lot of young people refrained from supporting Biden. I
Right.
think if push had come to shove, more young people would have voted Biden, but no one was happy with him.
But the likelihood is they probably wouldn't have actually shown up to vote.
No, they wouldn't have.
right?
They wouldn't have voted. Absolutely not.
So now they're likely to show up to vote just because it's Kamala. What do you fucking need TikTok for? Do we need that? Can we get rid of that?
Well, it sounds like the
hate it.
TikTok influencers are doing it before her even. So, Brat Summer.
Right.
All right, Brett Summer.
I'm so confused.
I think
right,
Matt's
let's
not voting
vote.
for that one.
I'm not voting for that. I hate
Let's
it.
vote. What do we have?
But
All right,
it is
so
very Gen Z. Remember, this is a Gen Z-eist.
That's correct. That's why I hate it. Elon Musk's transgender daughter disowns
Ugh,
him.
I can't vote for that. I can't vote for that.
Labor says a Tory law against cancel culture is going to be axed because it's actually stupid and a problem.
I like that
one. And Harris is on TikTok. Kamala Harris is on TikTok.
I like that one too.
Ari, you go first.
I'll go first. Yeah, I think the one that affects Gen Z the
Gen
most
Z-ist.
right now is Harris going on TikTok.
Future
yeah.
President Kamala
Taking
Harris.
Damien, just
Taking
make
the
it
campaign
a
to
sweep
TikTok.
of that.
I mean,
so
come on.
I
It
don't
has
have
to be
vote.
that story. It has to be.
All right.
Yeah.
Now I'm not going to vote because I hate
Anything,
them.
but really, anything with Kamala, it should be anyway because it's a happy week for once
All
because of
right,
her.
why don't you tell us the jerks this week, man?
All right, good. I have less than most weeks.
Oh,
Oh, good.
It was hard.
that's a signal.
Here's some data. There are just 3 banks in this state that are publicly traded and stuck in the state because this is their state of incorporation. There's like nowhere else to
Okay.
go, leaving
Which state?
171.
Connecticut?
I'm going to get there.
Oh.
171 publicly traded U.S. banks that can just leave the state if they wanted to.
Okay.
171. They could just leave. Just close your branch. You got business everywhere else, so you don't have to be there. There is one insurer in the state that is publicly traded, leaving 41 other insurers in the United States that can just stop insuring there. Right? Like they're not there. They
Okay.
don't have to insure there.
I'm a
Whatever.
little confused so far. Yep.
Here's the headline: the Treasury Department warns that an anti-woke Florida banking law is a national security risk.
Right.
And your second headline is another home insurance company is getting out of Florida.
Wow.
Oh.
Your asshole is anyone staying in Florida.
Anyone, just anybody.
Anybody. You live there? Why? Why do you
What
live
about an
there?
alligator? What about you
But
mad
look,
at them?
If you are... I would be mad. Alligators probably have better places to go. Like, try
Yeah,
Louisiana.
go to Barbados. Come on.
Look, there are 3 banks and 1 insurer that have an excuse why they are not going to leave Florida because that's their state of incorporation.
I see what you're saying. Got
That
it.
means there are 171 and 41 insurers, respectively, that can just leave this stupid state that debanked itself. They set up a law. The law said that banks are no longer allowed to consider anything political in their lending, including political speech, political, quote, leans, or political, quote, affiliations. You know what that includes? If you're a member of ISIS,
Yeah.
that is a political
Sure.
affiliation,
Absolutely.
right? It also contravenes federal regulations that say you can't lend to certain
Right.
like terrorist groups
Yeah. Right.
or, sanctioned individuals, all that kind of stuff. So the banks in Florida now have a choice to make. They either lend to those groups and comply with Florida's laws, or don't lend to those groups and risk getting sued by a terrorist for not getting a loan. It's absolutely insane.
There was no need for them to do this.
It was the dumbest. It was purely
DeSantis,
political
right? It's all DeSantis.
kabuki theater. It's
Yeah.
all DeSantis.
Opened them up to huge liability.
Oh, pudding
Meatball
fingers.
run.
Meatball run, yeah.
Meanwhile, insurers can't consider climate change in their underwriting.
That makes no sense.
That's
the Robert
worst.
E.
That's the
Insurance
worst
been
ever.
banned in Florida as politicians talk.
Yeah.
Exactly. They can't
That's
say
the
the word
stupidest one
climate change.
ever, that one. Yeah.
Which means And simultaneously, by legislation, they actually cap the amount that insurers can raise their rates. So they have said, don't consider climate change and also don't raise your rates. So what can an insurer do except what the headline says, which is just leave? There's nothing else to do.
Doesn't sound very business friendly.
Not that I need to point this out to anyone, but this is also not South Dakota, right? This is Florida. Florida is in the heart of the hurricane activity in the United States, and it's surrounded by water on all sides. I mean, this is just it is the state that you would want to consider climate change for everything you do. It is the state where it is the most important.
So here's my question. What are the 171 other banks and 41 other insurance companies even thinking about doing there? I mean, what is it? Anyone thinking about staying in Florida for?
I don't know. Dwayne Wade left, right? He took his family.
If you buy a house, you cannot insure it. You can get a loan, but you might not. Like, banks are just going to have to. They can't. They're going to be too afraid to lend to you because everyone's a national security risk now because they don't know. They can't collect any information on you. Like, what can you even do there? Like, you get low taxes. You go to the beach and you have low taxes.
There are other beaches, Chantal.
You also have no job
Cape Cod
or
has
home.
beaches.
Get out of Florida. Anyone in Florida, you're an asshole.
Yeah. I agree.
Number two.
Even if you're a listener to our show and you live in Florida, you're still an asshole. Sorry.
Number two is a rehash of a different asshole of the week, but it's still the same asshole of the week. I'm just going to read the headline.
Yeah.
We don't even need data, but I have it. The headline is, Boeing pleads guilty to fraud in fatal 737 MAX crashes, fined $243.6 million.
Pleads guilty to fraud.
The asshole is investors.
Yeah.
77% for vote for the CEO and chair, Dave Calhoun. He's been there for 15 years. He's been instrumental in both. He was on the board that greenlit the planes that crashed, and he stayed on the board and been CEO since the crashes. That guy is a fraudster. You just said fraud.
Legally speaking, you're correct. He is.
That's correct. Yes. He was legally convicted of. He's pleaded to fraud
under his
88% and 86% votes for the two longest tenured directors. Otherwise, and here's the worst part to me: on news that they pled guilty to fraud and fined $244 million, the stock jumped 2% that day on news that they were guilty.
Okay.
So investors are paying $244 million to the government because Boeing committed fraud. The investors are paying that money. They own the company. The people who made the decisions that cost that money have kept their jobs. They get voted in by those investors. Not only that, their options are worth 2% more after pleading guilty for fraud.
Boo.
You fucking idiot investors. When are you going to realize that the people who run the companies actually matter and you can replace them? Stop fucking around and vote out idiots like Dave Calhoun. And don't use your ESG skeptic policy to tell me like this is too much G for you. There's too much governance for you. Vote them out. They are convicted fraudsters now. Everyone.
They have the power.
Yeah, and let's not forget this very simple premise with current CEO and board member Dave Calhoun that we screamed about for many shows is that you could have he wasn't, if you had voted him out this year at the 2024 AGM, he would still be CEO. You're not disrupting the entire company. You're just taking him off the board. That they couldn't even remove him from the board.
That's sad.
To me, right? I mean, that's beyond me. Why does he need to sit on an oversight board overseeing himself as he perpetuates fraud?
Overseeing himself failing.
Yes.
Right? It's crazy that shareholders need this to keep happening.
And we've been saying this on this show since 2019. We've had data showing how connected this board is. We've shown poor performance for the entire board. There's no stone left unturned by Free Float about Boeing at this point when it comes to who's governing this company. And yet, you shouldn't need the data at all to say a guy convicted of fraud should not be your representative to run the company. That's what
The
that
takeaway
should be
here
that simple.
is Americans need to learn how to vote.
It's
Yes.
unbelievable that you don't get, in fact, in a quarter of American companies, by free float data, slightly more than a quarter of American companies are actually totalitarian. One person controls the majority of the power or influence, either through dual class shares or shareholdings that they have, or family, or connections on the board, any number of ways you can sort of maintain control of a company. That means you only really get to vote at 75% of the companies that you might own, because it doesn't matter at the other 25% really at all. So exercise that vote, you morons. You should not 77% agree that a fraudster should stay there. You shouldn't agree on that. All right. That's the end of that rant. And
I don't think it is for today's show.
For today. And then finally, another one with no data. This guy's just an asshole.
Uh-huh.
The asshole is Robbie
me.
Starbuck.
Oh, phew. I thought it was going to be me.
Is that a real name?
If you don't know who Robbie Starbuck is,
don't.
It's a terrible name.
you might recognize some of the music videos that he actually
Like what?
produced and directed. He was a director for music videos. He did it from like 2010 to 2017 or so, 2013 or so, something like that. But he did like Machine Gun Kelly, a band Metric. There's some bands that I recognized on there, or groups that I recognized. Here's a headline. Harley Davidson sparks boycott call for going, quote, totally woke. Yeah, Harley Davidson. That's right.
Shouldn't laugh.
How did they go totally woke?
Yeah, how? Do we have
Robbie
an example of that?
Starbuck is a conservative activist, increasingly an investment activist, who is behind Deere Company and Tractor Supply retracting their DEI commitments.
Okay.
And now he's targeting Harley Davidson. Apparently, everyone can just be Vivek now. They can just be a fucking blowhard and say some stuff, and people are listening to them because he edited Machine Gun Kelly's like music video. He has no credibility. He ran for a Tennessee senatorial position and lost.
So he has money.
He doesn't have a lot of money. He's
Enough.
just a fucking blowhard. And well, credit where credit is due.
blowhard. Yeah.
He is actually targeting brands that are typically used by rural and rural adjacent white people, right? Like Deere, Harley Davidson, Tractor
He's
Supply.
stoking hate to get these companies to listen
So he's
to him.
figured out
He knows where to start.
the base is groups of large groups of white people who buy from companies that deal mostly with them. Any one of them that has a diversity officer, a DEI commitment, says
It's the
anything
Bud
about
Light effect.
inclusion, he's going after them and saying, your customers don't want this. Effectively, he's telling these companies, your customers are all white racists. They don't want any of this
Oh,
bullshit. And they're listening
because
to
of
him.
Because of Bud Light.
Because of Bud Light, because of
Right.
Target.
That's why they're listening. That's why they're listening.
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris is the nominee. She raised $150 million in 3 days by a country that might actually be less racist than you think. Robbie Starbuck, you are just a fucking turd. Just
Man.
stop it. Just
Yes.
stop it.
Kamala's
Have you heard of this?
presidency will fix all of this.
Chantal, have you heard of Robbie Starbuck?
Nope, not before today.
Okay.
Never heard
Good.
of him.
That's good. See, there's
Well,
good news, Matt.
He's a conservative influencer and an idiot, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, he exists in one bubble. But what he's doing is effectively changing companies. And that is the amazing part, because we here have been trying to use data to let like investors change companies with information. He just says, where are white people at? And who's got a DEI policy? I'm going to say all the white people are racist. Actually, if you're a white person living in rural America and you're not a racist, you should get really angry at this.
Yeah.
Because
They're calling it.
he's using you to change the way companies work. It doesn't reflect what you think. So those are my assholes. You've got anyone staying in Florida, investors, and Robbie Starbuck
Wait,
Wow.
investors at Boeing.
at Boeing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damien,
and
you
Robbie
start.
Starbuck. Oh man. I mean, just to keep it simple, I got to go with Robbie Starbuck. I mean, he's just.
That's a very pure asshole. It's like a
Darn.
guy who's an asshole.
Darn.
It's also just a shameful campaign. I mean and attacking. They're already attacking Kamala for either being black or being a woman, or they're referring to her as a DEI hire, which is absolutely ludicrous. It's just I find him to be a shameful schmuck, an asshole, real good asshole.
Yeah, I agree. The single standalone asshole this week.
Made it easy.
Chantal, what would your vote been?
I'm going to say Boeing. I say the investors need to learn how to vote.
Yes, I agree with
Chantal's only saying that.
Chantal's correct.
I'm not saying Chantal is wrong, but Chantal has not been on the show like Ari and I have to hear the 75 other rants against Boeing that Matt's already done.
Yeah,
so we're just tired of
This
it.
Starbucks guy, that's refreshing.
Starbucks is refreshing. It's refreshing to hear about a different asshole.
It made me want some lemonade from Starbucks.
How can we? My question is this: as you play us out of that, how can we be the Robbie Starbuck on our side of things? How can we achieve Robbie Starbuckism from the free flow perspective? If anyone has an idea, let me know. All right, move on. Okay.
I hate Chantal. You're fired.
It's gonna be me eating a cookie, Chantal. All right, what else? What is it?
Do you guys have your
headliniest? Ooh,
I do. I have one.
I did not see any.
I have one.
I have two. You can choose one of mine.
All right, Damien, you start.
I'm starting because mine made me laugh. And I know this is really nerdy and stupid, and nobody cares about this but me. But I just thought the headline was funny as a concept. Okay, so bear with me. This is a bit of a theoretical idea here. The headline is Terex Corporation, to acquire ESG for $2 billion.
Like what concept?
Now, okay, I know that ESG actually stands for it's a company called Environmental Solutions Group. But I just thought it was funny the idea of a company buying ESG, right? And that's what's valued at $2 billion.
When I read that headline, I fast read it as Texas to acquire ESG
even better.
for $2 billion.
That's what Apple used to do. Apple used to buy some of my some great products. I remember they bought a music app I used to love called Groove Shark, I think, just to kill it. Yeah. They didn't even do anything with it. They just bought it because they couldn't compete with it. It was better coding than they could come up with. They just bought it to kill it. So that would be great if Texas bought ESG just to kill it. That's my stupid headline.
All right, you go next. Pick the one.
I think this is so funny. I'm so glad I found it. Champagne sales down worldwide in 2024. Industry executives cite lack of cheer.
Oh,
that's sad. That's the saddest headline.
Changing now, though, right?
Imagine that earnings call. Our reporting sales are down 2.3% this year. Really, we think the headwind here is a lack of joy and cheer. Right?
It's not us.
It's the Prosecco.
It's the people.
There's been a real move to different alcohols that bring on depression.
Some hard bottom shelf stuff.
That is a good one.
Matt, yours is easy. Matt, yours is the winner, I gotta say.
Here's mine. Mostly because the context of it after this is fabulous.
Just the pure headline itself to me is it's just amazing.
The headline is, "Can boneless wings include bones? High Court weighs in."
I just love the idea of any Supreme Court weighing in on that idea.
That concept, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, it not only did the court weigh in, it was divided in a 4-3 opinion by Ohio's Supreme Court. The Supreme Court in Ohio, they found that consumers should not expect boneless wings to be free of bones.
Wait, whoa. In a 4-3 decision, they should say it again.
They said boneless wings should not be expected to have no bones in them.
What?
So boneless wings can have bones.
They found that
the
Ohio Supreme Court said boneless wings might have bones.
Wait,
they
I
said
a boneless wing is like a nugget or tender. What is a boneless wing?
A guest at a restaurant basically got a bone stuck in his throat from a boneless wing.
And he was
sued.
And he can't sue for that.
He sued. It went all the way to the Ohio Supreme
they threw
Court,
it out?
who in a split decision decided that boneless wings can indeed have bones in them.
That's bananas.
Thus not making them boneless.
And these
Doesn't
are the
that
same,
make the headline even better? Not only are we asking the question, but it's so dumb, the answer is the opposite of what you would think.
But these are the same red state Supreme Courts that are throwing out DEI committees, but yet boneless wings can have bones.
Well, they can. They
silly.
can because they can't
regulation.
discriminate against bones. Yeah.
All right, winners.
Wait, who won the headliniest?
Definitely the bones.
Yeah, the bones, right?
Bones.
I'm voting for
That's
mine. I like the idea of
ridiculous.
Terex buying ESG. I like this one.
The
I like
bones
buying
won.
ESG.
You lost.
All right.
Bones win.
All right, that means we are on winners. Let's get out of the show. It's going into the third
It's
hour.
a long
I
one
wrote
today.
my winner first. Everybody else copied me.
I didn't have the same winner as anyone else.
All right, Damien.
How
What
could we
was your
all?
winner?
How could there be any winner other than Kamala Harris or just the country? I don't know how we have another
Yeah.
winner other than that. That's my winner.
I really like that she broke the fundraising record for 24 hours in U.S. history with $81 million.
How can we raise that much in 24 hours?
Which
Can
means
we do
people
that?
have way too much money.
Well, Chantal, you had a slightly different winner.
The Democratic
got-
Party.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
I
whole
think
party.
that we
So.
should
Yeah.
all, we should all get ready for not only a really great candidacy, a really great campaign, but also some primetime entertainment because Harris is ready to
Oh.
debate.
Ooh.
I still
Hopefully
don't
on
want to watch
TikTok.
that. I will, but I don't want to see
I
that.
think it'll be a little cringy.
Yeah, it's going to be
All right,
definitely
who's your
cringy.
winner?
My winner was climate change.
Oh.
Because,
Okay.
look, if you think about it, yes, Kamala Harris broke single-day fundraising in history. But climate change broke the highest temperature record ever recorded. And
Yeah.
then the next day, broke it again.
Oh,
climate
that's
change is
not-
a very
that's
big
not
winner
Do you
this
think
week.
is that
I
because
don't like that.
is that because the money she raised was through like Bitcoin and all the Bitcoin farm servers were going crazy? Is that why?
I didn't say, but I do think
Okay.
climate change ends up the big winner this week. Predictions.
Predictions. I don't have a prediction this week.
What?
Mine is that I think Kamala is going to start to win the hearts of not voters. I mean, I think she'll do that too, but CEOs. I think we're going to start to see some CEOs coming over to
CEO
Kamala.
love for Kamala?
Yeah, I think we're going to see some CEO love.
No, I
want
think
some
we
CEO
will. I
love.
think that's a boring prediction.
So
Chantal,
what?
make a better prediction.
I just wanted to think of something else with Kamala. That's all.
I
Chantal,
want
what's
an
your
old
prediction?
candidate to donate to Kamala. I'm saying Bloomberg is going to give some of his massive
Wait.
billions of dollars to Kamala.
Wait,
I know,
Chantal,
it's
didn't
a
you have
kind
a
of crazy out
Bloomberg
there.
prediction? Didn't you have a Bloomberg story or prediction last time too?
Maybe she has some
There's
insight.
a Bloomberg
Yeah, what's going on?
story
You're
last
trying to get a job at Bloomberg,
I think
right?
that was Ari. Hey, my mom already
No, I
worked
think
there,
that was
so
you,
I don't
Chantal.
Chantal's just.
Uh-huh.
I don't
Trying-
trust Chantal anymore. This is product placement. I
sucking
think
up to
Chantal is.
billionaires.
Yeah, this is product placement.
They're like, this is how you get a job as a young
That's
person.
true. That is true.
So,
yes.
congrats to Chantal for getting a job at Bloomberg.
Who will be working either at Bloomberg or TikTok when she graduates college?
My prediction is Kamala's win in November
I like this already.
sparks. So, I'm
Yeah.
not predicting that Kamala's winning in November. She's winning in November.
Wait,
Her
what?
win in November sparks a sudden slate of black female CEOs at Fortune 500 companies.
Or Indian, right? She's half Indian.
I predict that at least 3 new black female CEOs
Wow.
are announced in 2025.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that's a
Fortune
huge
500
number for that universe.
Which
That's
is
a huge
a
number.
monstrous number. That's a monster number. That's all we got. That is Ari the Data Queen, Chantal the Intern, Hazelnut
all.
Rawlis, I'm your
25
analyst, Matt Muscardi. We are Free Float. Come back next week when I think we're actually all here all week for the
Yep.
first time this summer. We're going to do that. Oh, no.
I
Ari,
don't have childcare.
Ari's not here. She's next week.
Nice try.
So.
So not quite. But come back next week. We'll talk to you on Tuesday and maybe Thursday and maybe Friday. Until then, goodbye.